Greg King has a passion for connecting college athletes to causes. As the CEO of TEAM NILO, he works to educate and empower collegiate teams and athletes to use their platforms with the purpose of serving the causes they care about. Thank you so much, Greg King, for joining me here today on AwareNow to share this space, to share this time, to share your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Allié, and thank you, AwareNow, for allowing me to share my story.
Absolutely. So let's get started this way. So you grew up in Southern California. With your parents divorcing rather early in your life, you were raised by your mother, who exposed you to a lot of opportunities, a lot of culture as you were growing up. What was one of your favorite and most memorable experiences with your mother as a kid?
Oh man, there was quite a bit. I would say so. My mother was. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was, but looking back, my mother was very creative to make money. And one of the things she did is we would go to garage sales, and she would buy beds, kids' beds, and so she would repurpose those kids' beds. But as a kid, I saw all these different cool beds, and so I probably had 5 or 6 beds as an elementary kid. But the first time she bought a bunk bed, and I'll never forget, we were watching TV. She was on the top bunk, and I was on the bottom bunk. And lo and behold, the top bunk fell, and it fell on top of me. And we laughed, and fortunately, I was already kind of getting ready to get out of the bed, so my head was out. And, it was just times like that, looking back, that my mom was always doing something to keep us in a position where I didn't know that we didn't have it, because she always found a way to repurpose it or just make things happen. So that's one of the many.
I can see why that would never leave your memory. So growing up, you had mentioned that you didn't have many friends because you moved a lot. How did this affect your ability to form relationships, and how did you navigate those challenges?
Wow. I still have problems with, I think more so being close to people. I think there's a relationship where you meet people and you can form some type of relationship. We're created to be in community and relationship. Because I didn't have a consistency of being in one place necessarily. It was always this, high and by, right? And so you learn to adapt, and you don't really realize, but because you're kind of on the move. I don't say that it was intentional, but I got accustomed or used to or comfortable with being an only child and not having a lot of friends. And still to this day, I'm more so like that. My wife has completely changed that, and having love in her form and relationship, and my kids, that's created a different type of bond, but it's also opened me up to be more open to having more relationships that are meaningful and not just a week or a month or a hire and buy anymore. It's a process, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure. So here's the thing. After 7 years, you graduated from college and established a successful career in the dental field. That success, it seems, was not enough, not for you. What was missing, Greg? What was missing? Why did you shift?
I think it's always the pursuit of not having enough, or thinking that you don't have enough. For me, it was more of prove yourself, right? And I unfortunately got hurt, so I didn't get to play college football, and that was kind of my my way of thinking that this is how I was going to get to college and be a famous professional. But I had more of a, how can I prove that, I can do this at the business level. And, growing up, it was about, you got to see how other people had success, and success in a form of material things, right? Cars, money, that brought girls and made you more attractive, and, buy a big house. And so I always wanted more. And I didn't ever define what success really looked like for me. And I can just say, if success is built off a moving target of things, those things will come and go. But, to really define who you are as a person, and then be able to say, hey, this is what success now looks like. And so when you get to that point, you can be comfortable, right? Maybe even in okay. I'm not saying you have to be content, but anything else from there is just a blessing, or it's, as they say, gravy on top of it all. So,
Yeah. What a great point too. I love how you said, if you're always like aiming for this moving target, if you got this and now what, that can never be enough, in some regard. So, is it 2.5 years ago, you started a nonprofit. So what is it that inspired you to venture into the nonprofit sector? And what is the mission and purpose of that nonprofit?
So the nonprofit is changing our perspective. There's a well-known gentleman that I was blessed to be connected with, that the world definitely knows him as someone that on the field was a giant, but off the field, had a heart of gold and has done a lot of great things. And so when I met him, we were both in the same period of time. It was COVID. You had political unrest and social justice and George Floyd, and there was just there was a lot of brokenness, right? And being a young African American man, I've experienced the racism or the stereotyping, and when it was all about me, it was kind of, my head was down and I'm building my kingdom. I got to get mine, and I'm sorry about everybody else. But it was actually my sisters that they're a Gen Z, and one was at NYU, one was at UCLA, and I wasn't going to protest. I'm not fighting anybody. I'm just taking care of mine. And it was really Asia and Jade that woke me up and woke my spirit up to say, there are challenges and there are social injustice, there are hurts, and everyone's broken. Everyone's searching for something. And we have a bunch of data and stats, and we can tell the story of, how this impacts that. But at the end of the day, who's going to actually do something about it? And not just do something about it, but put together a roadmap or a template that it's not about you as the person that's putting this together. It's about how this architectural design could enable people from all walks of life and colors and backgrounds, and whoever you are, it would enable you to have an opportunity to be successful. Mm-hmm. And so we settled on really education was what we felt was the gateway to having an opportunity, especially in this country, to be successful. And so changing our perspective focused on, tackling some of the barriers for access to educational tools and resources, and social emotional tools and resources in college and career readiness for communities that don't have the resources.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how true. It's education empowers, and so to be able to provide those resources where they are scarce or not available, it's required. So let's talk about another organization though, Team NILO, your latest venture. And you began it earlier this year. So please just fill us in here. Tell us about Team NILO, what it is, what its goals are, and how it ties into your personal experiences and values.
Oh, thank you. So Team NILO, team, first of all, stands for Technology Empowering All Missions. NILO is, we live in a new era of college sports that everyone knows, NIL, name, image, and likeness. And so NILO is name, image, and likeness opportunities. But going back to the acronym TEAM and empowering all missions, in my journey, coming across people and working in the corporate world and nonprofit, everyone has a mission. That mission could be to, get a college degree and have a family and be successful. Corporations' mission could be, we want to do more good. We may not know how, but we know that we could do better. Universities, universities have a mission to educate, right, students that want higher learning. Coaches, athletic directors, they have a mission of winning ball games, but also educating and equipping young men and women for life after sports. And then you got student athletes. Student athletes are on a mission these days for a lot of different things, not just, hey, we can monetize, in this new era, but student athletes, they know there's life after sports, and they're searching for something that can give them a pathway, not to tell them what to do, but more empower them on how they can take their own course, right, or their own pathway to get there and achieve that. And so what Team NILO does is we create impact campaigns that connect student athletes to causes. And essentially when NIL came out, there was a lot of ways that fans and brands could engage with athletes, and that still is happening, and it'll always happen, and it is a good thing. We looked at this as a way that we could further the reach of using these influential athletes as a way to do more good or more social impact. And so what these campaigns consist of is services that are very defined, that together with the nonprofit, we create these opportunities or NILOs that allow these athletes to serve. But ultimately, these athletes are helping those nonprofits advance their mission, their vision, and amplify the work that these organizations are doing. I know firsthand fundraising, even with a famous individual, athlete, was tough. You can't just say, give me money and you get money. But it was really about, when we started raising money, was the effectiveness of what we were doing and how we were helping to actually make an impact. And that's what corporate, donors cared about. So this is just a new way to re-engineer serving people, serving communities, using the influence of these athletes to highlight the work that's already being done. And now the hook is they can be paid just like anyone else that does contract work.
I love that. So just to be able to, if you've already got a platform, why don't you make it a platform that has purpose, that serves not only you, but to serve others, and to help student athletes navigate that space with integrity, with authenticity. What you're doing, the work you're doing, is really important. And in complete alignment with AwareNow, I might say, being all about causes and such.
100%.
So in a prior conversation, you had mentioned that you know firsthand what it's like to be the misunderstood or the oddball in the room. How has this understanding, how has this empathy and personal understanding influenced your approach to leadership and working with others?
Yeah, it's the it's the intersection of I say there's 3 P's. There's passion, purpose, and profit. And Team NILO is a for-profit company that we do good, and because of that, we can be compensated for the work that we do. But for me, I have to be passionate about what I do. And it's probably an understatement for those that know me that if I'm passionate about something, I am passionate, and you will know it. And what I see as an opportunity to equip and educate and empower these athletes to be this champion of change. That all goes back to, I know my first coach, Dave Barry, very well at 9 years old. I quit the football team, and he showed up to my mom, to our apartment, and knocked on the door and said, King, I want you to come back out to practice, and that was that never give up. Life is hard. You will get knocked down. Everyone's not your friend, and that's okay. But when life, knocks you down, get back in the ring and keep swinging. But more importantly, if I didn't have that exposure, Allie, that my mother gave me of just seeing other things, even though we didn't have those things, I wouldn't have had a vision, because I would have been stuck in a box per se, or maybe a stereotype narrative of this is how good it can be because you have a single mom and your parents are divorced and all those things. So I've kind of prided myself to say, well, I want to be the 1%, but everyone else have given an opportunity who also have a story and may have had naysayers. They can be the 1%. Mm-hmm. And now if you provide those opportunities, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, ultimately we get to 100%. And so I think the purpose in this is really, we have a generation that they will be the leaders of tomorrow. So we can either, give them money and say, go figure it out, or we can allow them to be empowered by giving them the tools and the resources that they need to be successful.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and I love the work that you're doing, again, teaching these student athletes not just like what to do, but how to do it. The how is really important, and the why, perhaps most important of all. Why do we do this? What is your why? And to help them figure it out, the earlier we can understand that about ourselves, the better. Can you discuss for a moment the importance of caring for others in your life and work, and how it has shaped your journey, especially considering your past experiences?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think everybody at the core wants to be loved and cared for and affirmed and complimented. And so much now around us, everyone is kind of, isolated or apart. And we've forgotten how to care for people. And, going through a journey where I was about myself and going through a valley where it humbled me. At the end of the day, what was pointed out to me was I was always thinking about somebody else in my time of need, thinking about how can I help them. And ultimately, I was serving them, whether it was connecting, whether it was listening, whether it was just caring about another person more than my needs. And so at the core of really all of this is, whoever it is, when you serve another person, when you see a child battling cancer that may not go home, you come back hopefully to your craft, in this case, the field or the locker room. And yeah, everyone wants to win. That young child wants to win. They want to go home. That's a win. And it doesn't always work out that way. The ball doesn't always bounce that way for a victory. But I think the power of this is it's going to enable people to come together. It's going to enable student athletes to serve a cause that's bigger than them. And it may be one of those, aha, I get it now, or it may be something 25, 30 years from now that you remember that experience when you go through something, because everyone does, to say, you know what, I remember that I told that young child battling cancer to never ever give up. So guess what? I gotta tell those words back to myself when times get tough, to never ever give up.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Because it's that caring for others starts with caring for yourself. And Um, okay, so one more question for you today. What advice would you give to young individuals who may be faced with similar challenges that you had in your upbringing, and these young people who are looking to make a positive impact in the world but have no idea where to start? What advice?
One, where to start, Team Nilo. And whether you're a team or whether you're an individual athlete, if you want to do something that's legacy driven, we are here. I'm here. And I would love to figure out a way to allow you to tell your story by serving a cause that's personal to you. The second thing that I would tell a young man, young woman, boy or girl, adult, anyone, don't hold it in. Don't think that you are stronger than the circumstance and that you will just brush it off, because you may brush it off, but there's something that really is at the core that's inside that you may not know it's there, but it's there. And at some point it's going to get exposed and come out. So I think the best thing you can do is talk to somebody. If you don't like to talk to somebody and you're a young man, shed tears. Shed tears and let someone else see you shed tears, because there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. Everyone's going to be vulnerable at some point in time. But I think what it did for me was it just allowed me to get it out. And now I have a story just like everyone else has a story. And I'm not defined of any of my past or any of really my future, because I know who I am, and I know how I wake up every day to try to make this opportunity, people, world, whatever, a little bit better than what it was yesterday. But if you keep it in and just think that you're all right, then you already know that you're not all right. And you're keeping it in because you don't want to, you don't want people to think any less than you. And I was like that, and now I care, but I'm good with self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotta be good with you. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thank you so much, Greg, for sharing what you have, your personal story, introducing us to Team Nilo, the work that you're doing there. Thank you for helping all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.